Hello, good evening. Welcome back to the brutal capitalist dictatorship of Kuala Lumpur. Today I have another jog and talk video for you guys. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my channel, share this video if you found it informative, and don't forget to like, comment, and say hello to me in the comments. I will try to respond if you ever leave a comment. So let's begin. Now this is gonna piss off a lot of people in the West, but I don't particularly support diaspora return to the East. What I mean is that I think that for the most part, Asian Americans or British-born Asians like Rishi Sunak and so on and so forth would be far better off if they stayed in the West. Or at least they would be far happier in a Western society. And my views did not come as a result of unfounded bigotry, but rather through observations I have made over the last 3 to 4 years. Initially, I actually supported something of a diaspora right of return for Western-born Asians, because I understand that ethnic minorities in the Western countries, like black people or Asian people, they're treated like unwanted stepchildren. And so you have a certain cohort of Asian people in the Western countries, particularly in America, who believe that it is best for the Asians in the West to go back to whatever motherland they came from. I think you can call it a return to the motherland movement. But, after interacting with some of the more radical elements of, Western Asian diaspora, and being called a slew of nasty names by them, for example, whitewashed, used condom, and what else have I been called? So on and so forth, because apparently I don't fit the mold of what a real Asian person is. Me, an Asian from a traditional Peranakan family, born and raised in Asia, but because I don't speak Chinese and I eat with my hands instead of chopsticks, I'm somehow a whitewashed Asian. I realize that we are so different and that East and West are not the same. Asians in Asia are not the same as Asians in the West. And I've now realized that, East is East and West is West, and twain shall never meet. But after interacting with enough Asian Americans, I have come to this conclusion that Asians born in Asia and Asians born in the West might as well be two separate races altogether. We do not view the world the same. And I'm sorry, you can call me westernized, whitewashed, Hanjian race traitors, self-hating by Saxonized Asians. But the point is that this is something you yourself know deep in your heart. You know that I live in Asia because at the end of the day, I can still acclimatize to Asian society. You, on the other hand, call me whitewashed, call me a self-hating race traitor because I don't speak Chinese, and I have no particular interest in learning Chinese because East Asian culture, dear Asian American, is not the only Asian culture. Malay is also an Asian language, and I consider Malay to be more important if you live in Malaysia. Oh man, you realize that Asian Americans can be just as chauvinistic as Western liberals. Well, that is to say, if you don't fit their exact mold as to what a real Asian person ought to be, very soon you will find yourself on the receiving end of hateful opprobrium. You know, I've seen Asian American activists in one breath say that we are all Asian, but on the other hand express racist views against Southeast Asians. Basically, apparently only East Asians are worth defending, according to these people. Well, I have seen with my own eyes Asian American activists claiming that, you know, we must all unite as Asians, you know, we're all Asian, Asian solidarity, Asian unity. I don't believe in that bullshit. I think race solidarity is a childish and infantile concept, by the way. But the moment a Southeast Asian says anything that annoys them, well, or at least a Southeast Asianized Chinese, like my Peranakan face, says anything that annoys them, well, you see just how vile and nasty they become. And they talk about Southeast Asians in exactly the same way the white man talks about them. So I came to this realization that although Western-born Asians do have legitimate grievances, it would be a bad idea for them to return to the motherland in droves, because I don't know if they will be able to get along with the local people in Asia. And furthermore, I don't know if they will try to push their model minority westernized Asian culture on Asia if they find that Asian society and Asian people in Asia are not to their liking. Because I think it's normal for unhappy diaspora people to project their own fantasies on Asia. They think Asians are all going to be like them. And if they moved back to Asia, they would meet people like them. But then they meet someone like me who is not their expected mold of an Asian person. I'm a Malayanized Peranakan Chinese, and man, you can see the disappointment and eventual boiling up of anger and hatred in these people when they find that many people in Asia do not fit their mold as to what they expect of an Asian person, a mold which no doubt was formed in Chinatown and not in Asia. Now, the fact of the matter is that this video is not about me. It's rather about the fact that the diaspora, if they were to come back to their so-called motherland and they were to find that people in Asia don't share their worldview, or at least not everyone in Asia shares their worldview, and in fact, you know, that they themselves are also strangers in their so-called motherland, my concern is that it's going to end up like Liberia again. Because the Liberians were basically house slaves who felt that they were treated like unwanted stepchildren in white America, which is fair enough to say. So they thought that if they returned to the motherland, well, they would be able to meet people like themselves, with an Afro-Saxon mentality. It was actually my friend, Comrade Rice, who termed the term Afro-Saxon. I'm working on another video, a longer video entitled "The Wakanda that doesn't exist," and it will address the delusion that many diaspora people have, whether that be Asian American or African American or whatever other diaspora. They have this delusion that the motherland will be to their liking, or at least people in the motherland will be to their expectations. But you see, in these Asian American activists who have said all kinds of nasty things about me, you can see just how disappointed they are when they find a native Asian doesn't fit their mold of what a real Asian person is supposed to be. And then it dawned on me that maybe they don't actually want to come back to Asia, because they've not actually made any attempts to actually move back to Asia. They're basically condemning me from their own country, whether that be America or Britain or whatever, but they're not actually putting their money where their mouth is and actually moving back to Asia to set a good example as to what a real Asian is supposed to be. And the fact of the matter is that I haven't actually touched on Zionists yet. See, I will talk about the Zionists in a bit, but I have to tell you that if you're a Western-born Asian, I don't have anything against you personally. I think that our worldviews are very, very different, and this is not the fault of yours or the fault of mine. It's neither of our fault. It's just the way we were raised. You cannot be more Asian than I am, and no matter how I tried, I could not possibly be more Western than you are, okay? But, we are products of our social circumstances after all. And, the same goes for Chinese Malaysian diasporas, the ultra-Chinese Malaysian vernacular diaspora, who also hate people like me, hate Malayanized Chinese like myself, who aren't particularly interested in the Chinese language or, aren't particularly interested in identifying with China. Well, the thing is, I don't think that no matter how vehemently the ultra-Chinese diasporas who basically would like to cut my head off and use it as a football because I'm not Chinese enough for their taste, would defend their culture, these people know that they can never return to China. They would not fit in China simply because they have already become, whether they like to admit it or not, Malaysianized. So even the Chinese Malaysian diaspora who call me a self-hating banana race traitor because I consider myself Malaysian first, Chinese second, and I'm really not interested in organizing on the basis of race. I'm more interested in organizing on the basis of class. They tell me that, I basically am a self-hater because I don't consider the Chinese community to be my community. I consider the Malaysians of all races to be my community. Well, these people themselves will not want to go back to China because although they feel, and they have a legitimate reason to feel, that the Chinese are being discriminated against in Malaysia, at least the Peranakans, yes, while we're lumped in as Chinese, we are Malayanized enough to sort of fit in better in Malaysian society. For example, if you were to attend a convocation at UKM, they wouldn't allow you to wear your cheongsam or sari, but the Peranakan outfit is the kebaya is Malay enough to meet the rules of the dress code. So the Peranakan is Malay enough for to sort of like not feel the discrimination as much as the Han Chinese, but they know that they would not fit in as well in China, hence their extreme frustration. Because on one hand, they feel like unwanted stepchildren in Malaysia, and on the other, they know that their worldview is so different from a person in China. If you have been away for 3 generations, your consciousness will not be the same. I mean, there are Americans who consider themselves more Asian than me because they have learned Chinese. And I don't speak Chinese, but I speak Malay. But because they have such a Western-centric view on culture, they don't view Malay as an Asian language, and they believe I'm a whitewashed banana. But the fact of the matter is that even these people, I know, would not be comfortable with certain norms in Asian society. For example, are you comfortable with the multi-generational family unit? I'm not sure if you're aware, but many traditional Asian families in Asia, virtually all traditional families are multi-generational, not nuclear, yeah? They seem to prefer the nuclear family model, and I don't think that they would actually want to date an Asian woman from a traditional Chinese family, because family always comes first in Asia. So she's not going to move in with you American style. In most likelihood, she's living with her parents and grandparents. I don't think many Asian Americans could accept that. And that's fine, because you guys are Westerners, so your way of life is more Western. There's no need to be ashamed about it. It's just the way you were molded by your society, you see. And that's why I don't think you're actually prepared to actually matriculate into Eastern society and basically conform to our expectations, our cultural expectations, which is more than just learning a language. See, learning a language gives you a technical understanding of culture, but if you've not lived in Asia for an extended period of time, I'm sorry, but you cannot call yourself more Asian than someone in Asia. That is extremely disrespectful and extremely presumptuous, because, you know, I can learn Taekwondo, for example, and get a 4th Dan black belt in Taekwondo. I could learn the Korean language and speak like a native, hypothetically, but that wouldn't make me more Korean than a Korean who doesn't know Taekwondo or doesn't speak the Korean language as well as I do, because I was not raised in Korea, you see. So the fact of the matter is that they are trying to overcompensate when they call me whitewashed or westernized, because it doesn't really have any effect on me, because I know that they would not be able to tahan or endure our culture if it came to the crunch. Ever wonder why Asian American men who complain about white male, Asian female mind virus always tend to only go after Western Asian women? They don't tend to go for Asian women in Asia. Why? For the same reason the Chinese Malaysians don't go after Chinese girls in China. Now, some Chinese Malaysian incels on forums like Laoyat, for example, may complain that Chinese girls have high standards, and that is true. But at the same time, even if they had the opportunity to date or marry a Chinese girl from China, they wouldn't, even if they spoke Chinese, because at their heart, they still want a Chinese Malaysian girl. Just like the Asian American man, in his heart, still wants an Asian American woman, because the Asian American woman understands him in a way that an Asian woman wouldn't. So I believe that if they were treated with more respect, if Asians in America were treated with more respect, or Asians in the West were treated with more respect, they wouldn't even be thinking about the motherland. They only think about us because, well, they feel unhappy and they feel that they're being discriminated against, which is true. So the fact is, even Zionists do not actually want to come back to Palestine. They do not. I don't believe they do. You know why? Because when Zionists come back, what do? They create basically an environment that mimics what they are accustomed to in Europe. And that's why you notice that Israelis typically do not behave like Middle Eastern people. They behave more like Europeans or Australians. And it's not their fault, because Zionism itself originated from the West. It originated from the mind of a man who lived in Austria and regarded himself as an Austrian secular Jew. So Zionists themselves are not comfortable with Middle Eastern culture. That's why they want a two-state solution, because they still want a westernized environment, but they want to live in the Middle East. And they do not tolerate Palestinians or Palestinian culture unless the Palestinians slobber their balls, simply because, well, they are still Western chauvinists at heart. Why do you think that Ben Shapiro, for example, is happy to consider himself a defender of Western supremacy and Western civilization, even though it was the same Western civilization that pogromed his forefathers? Well, because at heart, Ben Shapiro is a Saxon. He's a Westerner, as are most Zionists. And the same goes for Afro-Saxons and Asia-Saxons in the West. They are more comfortable with Western morals because they were raised in the West. And, you know, the only reason why they are thinking of repatriating back to the so-called motherland that they have no memories of is because they feel that they are unwanted in their own societies. In fact, some of the biggest supporters of Zionism, like Churchill or Lord Balfour, in fact, were rabid anti-Semites. In fact, I think it was Churchill who believed that communism was a Jewish conspiracy. And in fact, Zionists are naturally reactionary because they think in terms of blood and soil, and they organize on the basis of race rather than class. So I believe that, you know, although there's no evidence to suggest that the communists were majority Jewish, I do believe that that the anti-Semites in the West support Zionism because it basically draws the Jews away from communism or socialism, and it makes them focus on a race identity rather than a class one. And the fact of the matter is that Zionism is a pretty anti-Semitic ideology, because you are saying that the Jews are not safe anywhere in the world except in Israel. But in other words, the Jews are not safe in the West because they're with you. And judging by the fact that your European ancestors were not particularly nice to Jews, you know, I have no reason to believe that you're actually trying to help out the Jews in good faith. In fact, I believe that you're trying to kill two birds with one stone, using them as a satellite in the East, and at the same time getting them as far away from you as possible. Yeah, that's what I think. And I'm sure many people in the global South think that. And basically you are making the Palestinians pay for your ancestors' crimes. But to wrap up this video, I just want to say that it's not that the diaspora in their heart have any great love or affection or sentimentality for a motherland they've never even been to in all likely circumstances. I believe that if the diaspora were treated better by the majority and they felt that they were respected and accepted in whatever society they came from, well, I don't believe they would actually think about the motherland. And I don't believe they would be trying to form links with the motherland, attempts which often end up in disaster, as we have seen in the way some of these Asian Americans have treated me. But yeah, the same goes for Chinese Malaysians. If they felt accepted in Malaysia and valued, they wouldn't cling so hard to their Chinese identity if they felt accepted and valued, and they wouldn't be suspicious of people like me who are not particularly invested in, you know, in clinging on to some arbitrary standard of Chineseness, because Chinese identity is really one of the least interesting things, in my personal opinion, quite frankly. I don't make it all about my personality. It's just an accident of nature. Wouldn't make a difference if I was born Indian or Arabian or whatever. I'd still be the same person. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much. And remember, I am Malaysian first, Chinese second. My loyalty is to the Malaysian people, the Malaysian working masses, and not to any particular race or religion. I am a socialist after all, and I am a party socialist member. Thank you. Have a good day.